In this episode, we got to talk about one of my favorite charities in this entire fucking world called Give Kids the World. What better way to show we care for each other than to donate to a good cause?
It's such a great organization. They really help the families and their kids celebrate. They bring smiles to these wonderful kids' faces.
I really do love this charity. Give Kids the World hosts kids with critical illnesses and allows them to spend time with their families on a week-long vacation in Orlando, Florida.
Give Kids the World focuses on making every day the best day ever. Please consider sharing your love with this organization by going to gktw.org and donating. You'll be able to find a link to donate in the show notes.
I wore my Give Kids the World shirt. Look.
Oh, look at that, buddy. She's got on her Give Kids the World shirt. Look, I have this. I got to figure out a way to scan it to you and send it to you, but I've got like the whole book of when he was a Make-A-Wish kid.
I love
The
that.
whole, like his star, like they
That's
give him another one.
awesome.
Like the location of it, all of it. Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Oh,
But there's one of him staying in front of the standing in front of the house that we had. That's the one I'm going to send you. And then I did one on his 18th birthday, which was really, really cool.
Welcome back to another episode of Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. Today we have an amazing guest. Her name is Jen. She has an incredible story about her son and just her personal struggles and just lessons learned and really cool things. So Jen, welcome.
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you so much. So happy to be here with you guys.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, Dirty Skittles, this is all she's like talked about for like 3 days now.
I am so excited.
We get to talk about like all my favorite things, including charity. So I'm thrilled, man. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And I think we'll have probably your son popping in at some point.
Yes,
he's
you
part of the
will.
story, right? Like part of the
He
story you're
is.
going to share.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So where should we get started?
Let's start probably at the beginning of when he first got diagnosed. So, my son Alex was born and, he just always got sick. He was in daycare after a year old, and, that's typical. So, but, as a mom, you just know something is not right.
Yeah.
So met with his doctor, I was with his doctor all the time, so much so that my kids actually think that is their real uncle. So they refer to him as Uncle Bullard. So they really do think that's their uncle. So we were there so much, and I just kept mentioning just something is just not right. I have an older son, but you just as a mom, you just know. So he agreed after he got sick so many times with bronchitis, pneumonia, ear infections, all of that.
Wow.
So yeah, he allowed a referral at the time. That was what you needed, to go down to the University of Miami, to see an immunologist. And we were able to get diagnosed at that time with an immune deficiency. So he was about 2.5 years old, a little over 2.
It's crazy.
When he got diagnosed. Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
I can't imagine. Yeah. Was he your firstborn?
He's second.
Okay.
Yep, he was second, but there's 10 years between the two.
Oh,
So it was like starting all over again.
I can't imagine taking that news in and like, what do you do? How do you digest that?
Yeah.
It was a lot. That was where the mental struggle came in. So it was like, okay, he's a selective antibody immune deficiency. And I'm like, that's a lot of words that I have no idea what that meaning is. And his immunologist is one of those doctors that he's just so intelligent, but he doesn't really have the ability to explain. So you leave with more questions than answers. You have a lot of stuff to Google and figure out your own. But as a mom, you start to do some major research and figuring it out. And so as he was diagnosed, we were on the way back from Jackson down at UM, and I got a phone call from his nurse who told me that Alex was qualified for a Make-A-Wish child. So before I had an opportunity to process and figure it out, I was being told that my son had, qualified for Make-A-Wish, which I'm sure, like most parents would have been like, oh my gosh, my kid's dying.
Right.
That was
Right.
immediately where my mind went.
Yeah, like that's where I would have probably, were you driving, you said, when you got this?
Yes, we
I
were
would have been
driving
like, I
back.
gotta pull over. Like, I'm gonna need like 3 days wherever we are now to
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
just, settle with my emotions. Oh my gosh. What a
Yeah, it
scary
was a
moment.
lot. It was very, very scary. And so I started to cry on the phone with his poor nurse. And I was like, what do
Oh.
you mean? What does that mean? And so she explained, no, make a wish is not only for terminally ill, but life threatening diseases as well. So I said, okay, so this is obviously life threatening. This is super serious. So I went home and just researched, which is not always a good thing.
Right.
Because, the Google
Right.
is not, the best way to do it. But at least it allowed me an opportunity to educate myself some and come up with some additional questions
Yeah.
to ask his immunologist. But that was a big blow. That mentally, you as a mom, you're like, all right, now I was right.
Right.
Something more was wrong. This explains why he's getting sick and sick all of the time. But it was very, very difficult to process.
Yeah. So you had to have, at that point, you've researched. After researching, I mean, your whole life has to change, right?
It did. It absolutely completely changed.
And everybody's got to get on board for it.
And
100%.
and were you working during this time when you
I
found out?
was. Yes. Yep. I was working during this time. So you have to keep on keeping on and don't want to miss, work too much because you're already missing a lot of work because he's sick all the time. And you don't want to lose your insurance, So it was very, very difficult. It was a very dark time for me. But I have to tell you, I have literally the most supportive family and friends um, that they are what got me through,
Oh,
honestly. Yeah,
that's
they
wonderful.
absolutely got me through. Yes.
So, his diagnosis, what did that mean in terms of how your life had to change to accommodate?
So I'll explain it to you in the 5-year-old way that I needed it explained to me to understand it. We all have 14 pneumococcal titers in our lungs that are our lung area that are fighting germs. He was born with two, and to this day, he still only has two. It was a possibility for him to outgrow it, but we have far surpassed that time. So this is something that he will just deal with for the rest of his life. So he's not contagious to anybody, but everybody is contagious to him. So, we go to the grocery store, you grab, the cart,
Right.
the escalator, the elevator button where there's tons of germs. Um, that just being around that can get him sick. And because he doesn't have the ability to fight, it is like he sounds like he's getting a cold, and it goes from cold to bronchitis to pneumonia in about 3 to 5 hours.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy shit.
So, and he's a strong one. So all of a sudden he'll wake up and be like, I've got a sore throat. And next thing you know, I'm getting a phone call from the school nurse saying, he doesn't feel well, pick him up. Pick him up, take him to his Uncle Bullard,
Mhm.
who's around the corner.
Yeah.
And we're having to call rescue to come get him.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so
Yeah.
this has been his life since he was, would you say 2.5?
Yeah. He was diagnosed when he was 2.5. Yes.
Holy crap.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
How do you, my first thought as like a parent is like, how do you just not keep him home all the time? Like, how does the world not shut down so that
That's
he's
exactly.
safe?
Yes, safe. Yes. So that's exactly how immunologist. I don't know if you've ever heard of the boy in the bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That should be him. He should be. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. But I had to make a really tough decision as his mom that I could not psychologically do that to him. There was no way. I had to put him out in the world and allow him to experience life like normal and just deal with whatever repercussions that brought. Of course, we're very cautious. We had to strip any carpet that was in our home. At the time he was young, so we had a bunch of stuffed animals. So we had to really, really limit those. If you freeze stuffed animals for 24 hours, it kills all the dust mites.
I did not
Stuff,
know that.
yeah, stuff, stuff like that.
Right. Oh,
So we had to learn stuff like that. Yeah, we had to wrap his mattress, and pillowcases, and just do all of the things that we could possibly do to give him the best environment. We put UV lights on the air conditioners, to kill the germs, all of that kind of stuff. Nothing in the house that would make it smell good. It's the old style, putting cinnamon on the stove and orange
yeah.
peels to make it smell good. None of the plugins or anything like that. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That is a lot. Did you naturally get to that point where you're like, I want him to live as much of a normal life as he possibly can? Or was there I think I'm just stuck on oh my gosh, I would probably, me as a person, freak out and
yes.
everything shuts down. No, I don't think I would have gotten to that mindset, which is, I think, the best place to be. You're approaching this in a very healthy way, I would say. So was that immediate for you, or did it take learning, or did something happen that you're like, okay, I've got to just let him live his life?
Yeah, that was a very, very slow process. That was not immediate. Same idea. I was like, fine, we're putting him in a bubble. Like, we're done. Like, that's it. That's it. This kid is not going to see the real world at all. Like, I'm going to keep him safe, and this is it. But like I said, the support of my family and my friends were amazing, and they were like, once you get to meet him, his personality, even from a young, young age, is like, he's a
Yeah.
fighter. He is not, yeah, he is absolutely not going to succumb to this. He's going to do the absolute best that he can. And he doesn't want to be contained. And he made that really evident from a young age. So, you do what you can to support him. I mean, ideally, what they were doing at the time was they were giving him rotating antibiotics. And what that does is it gives him like a fake immune
Mm,
system. But the antibiotics, as you can imagine, was destroying his stomach. It's destroying his teeth, and it had so many side effects. So, we tried without it, and we were getting the same results. He was getting sick the same amount of time with or without it. So, we left it every at the time, every 3 months, he has to go starting young, all the way till now, and get 14 vials of blood taken. Yeah.
Oh
wait,
no, no,
why?
no,
Yep.
no.
It's one vial for every single pneumococcal titer.
No way. Hold on. That's now
Yes.
just clicking
Yep.
in. So they take 14 every 3 months to make sure that he's still
Yes.
at two.
Or
Whoa.
correct. Yep. And see where his levels are, see where we're at, all of that kind of stuff. Because he did shortly after that qualify for like IVIGs, which means where he would get like an IV of medication that would give him like a fake immune system. So the same effect as the antibiotics, but only one time a month. And at that point, he is still and was over needles.
Mm.
Like, he's 18. He just turned 18, and ooh, if you come near him,
Yeah.
he had to go get an MRI on Monday, and he was like, they're not going to give me that stuff in it, are they? I'm like, no, it's with no contrast, buddy. No contrast. He's like, oh, thank God.
Oh,
So
man.
yeah, like even at this age, but as he got bigger, I had to start calling in the troops to like help me hold him down.
Oh, so it's that extreme of a reaction.
It's that bad. Yeah. I mean, not so much now, but when he was growing up, yeah, because he's been poked and prodded his whole life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a question just about
Sure.
like the insurance part of that, right? So
Hmm.
at any point, did you have problems with your insurance companies not wanting to pay for it, or
So yeah, that's a great question. So yes, they would, say that they would try not to pay for certain things and say that they weren't going to cover certain things, and I would have to constantly go in and battle that. So the insurance, as you can imagine, was a complete battle as well. On top of the fact that, I was told you should probably try to get him some life insurance. That was impossible.
Wow.
Completely impossible.
Yeah, because he has a
Yeah.
pre-existing condition. Yeah,
Correct.
I was gonna ask, like, so, you know, he's turning 18 now, and you know,
Yes,
most kids now can be covered with their parents' insurance until he's 26. Like,
correct.
what happens after that?
He's going to need a job that he can be covered through a group plan because he is uninsurable.
That's
Yeah.
fucked up.
It is
Yep.
so fucked up. So like he wouldn't qualify for like Medicaid or um could he be, I mean, do they see this as like a disability, like a social security disability, or
No, they don't.
that's
They
even
don't.
more fucked up.
Uh-huh. Yep.
This is like actually heartbreaking because there's other kids like this, right? Like other
Oh,
kids. So
absolutely.
like this isn't just one story. There's many people that are falling into the same scenario where now you're uninsurable. Like what the fuck?
There's
Yeah,
144 um, immune deficiencies. There's actually a foundation, right? That they're phenomenal. It's the Immune Deficiency Foundation. They are phenomenal. They have tons of information, and that's where I got lots of information from. They have an advocate that would reach out to me and ask how things are going, what they could do to support support us, etc. Which was absolutely phenomenal because I don't know if I would have been able to make it without a lot of the information they provided.
Yeah.
would you be able to provide us with those links and everything so we can include those in our
Absolutely.
show notes, just so that if there's anybody out there that's kind of dealing with something like this,
Yes,
they at least have a resource to start with, because like you said, your first resource was Google, right?
correct.
And
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So I can absolutely do that. So yeah, so fast forward, I get a phone call from Make-A-Wish, and they're going to come over to the house and they're going to meet Alex and they're going to ask him what he wishes for. So he was a little
How
over
old was he
3.
at this point?
Yep, he was a little over 3.
wow.
So
Wow.
what do 3-year-olds wish for?
And what did he wish for?
Disney.
Uh-huh.
He wished to go to Disney.
Yay.
So I'm a huge Disney fan as well. And so he wished to go to Disney and they granted his wish. So we got to go to Disney. Actually, it was the week after Christmas and right of New Year's. And so we were able to go and they sent us to, I don't know if you're familiar, but they sent us to this place called Give Kids the World. And Give Kids the World is a place that Make-A-Wish works with, and it is a bunch of homes that is for Make-A-Wish kids, and it's all set up like Candyland. The entire place is set up like Candyland. So everybody that's there is, from Make-A-Wish. It's them and their family. They have like all types of rides, and they have train rides. They have video games, um, all kinds of stuff. Carousel, big pool that is wheelchair accessible. It is such a phenomenal, phenomenal place. I love that place.
I love it too. And before I talk about how much I love it, I just it just dawned on me though, right? So this is his wish is to go to Disney, but what's in Disney? Like tons of people and like
Yeah.
germs.
Correct.
And
So like how
Correct.
does that work?
Yes. So when you are a Make-A-Wish kid, you're given like a pen and a pass. So you don't wait with everybody else. You can do the entire, so they sent us to all 4 Disney parks, into SeaWorld. So you go to all of those parks and you don't wait with anybody else. Not only do they have Make-A-Wish rooms there, so if you were to get tired or start to not feel good, there's a private area that you can go to and be with it. But they essentially have, you don't wait in any lines. You kind of go, if you were to do like a behind the scene
Yeah.
tour,
Mm-hmm.
that's the entrances that you use.
Okay.
So you're going behind every ride and going in. So you're not with necessarily all of the people. You're not waiting in lines or anything. We were able to get the parks done in about, I'm talking every single ride and meeting characters, everything in 3 hours.
Whoa.
holy crap.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yes. Yes, it's
Wow.
so hard to go back after that week, let me tell you.
Yeah, and then like you mentioned you like Disney yourself, so were you like, this is fucking wonderful?
I was like, this is great. I'm so sorry that this is Make-A-Wish, but I am so happy it is at the same damn time because you
Right.
don't have to wait in not one line. Not one line, not even the characters. You know, if there's like five people in
Hmm.
line to see the characters, you don't wait. They just take you right up. Yeah, it
Wow.
was
Wow,
amazing.
that's so cool. That is really cool.
Yeah,
It was.
that's awesome. I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan of that charity. I I I guess I kind of got introduced to them. So I worked at a hotel in Orlando,
Hmm.
and they used to have a gala every year. And it was the one thing I looked forward to because the desserts we would make were, it depended on the theme of whatever was
Hmm.
happening, but they were always like whimsical and like fun, and like it was just, it was such a stressful but amazing time. And so I'm like, I gotta look into this charity a little bit more. Found out that they were in Orlando, volunteered a bunch, and then, you know, we'll probably touch on this, but when COVID hit, they did the night of, is it like a million lights, I think is what it is.
Yes, it is. Uh-huh.
And I took my family because, you know, I'm a new mom and I want to do this fun Christmassy thing with our family, and wanted to see lights, and they were offering it. And I'm like, cool, let's do this. Plus we're donating to charity. It's going to be great. So I'm there because I love the charity. I know what it's about and I want to see Christmas lights. Well, I didn't realize that like my family and my friends who we paid to have come with us and donate to the charity as well had never heard of it. And as we're walking through, because to be clear, during COVID, they shut it down. And like
Yes, they did.
how, like when you I guess start to think about that and how families may have had wishes that were going to go during that time and everything is shut down for safety, they held this event to still raise money for these families. And so we're
Yes.
walking through, and my parents are like, I'm laughing because it's kind of fucked up but funny, but they're looking around, like seeing all these stories and pictures of children and families, and they're like, wait, what is this? And as I as I explained what it was and why we were there raising money during that time, my dad broke down crying. He was like, oh my God, this is so
Oh.
beautiful, but like you didn't prepare us. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like I was like, I
The worst
apologize.
daughter in the world.
I know.
Right.
But we've done it every year since. And like
Yes.
now that they've opened up that area, they kind of shifted it to another location, but we're still going, we're still donating for charity. I'm planning to do it again this year. I love it because I love the charity. I love what it stands for, and like why not do
Absolutely.
something and give back? So I love it.
And we could,
Absolutely.
and on our show notes, we'll have a link to the charity, because I'd love to make this a charitable event for, for our
Yes.
listeners to go out and donate. It's such a great event.
Do it.
Absolutely.
Do it for
Awesome.
sure. Um
Thank you. That's awesome.
okay, so you go to Disney, he's got his wish granted. Does he get sick
Yes.
at all during that time? Did
He
anything?
did.
Yeah.
He did. Yeah, he did end up getting sick. But I will tell you, typically, like if we were to go anywhere, just anywhere,
Yeah.
I have to bring all types of stuff like to clean. This place, when I walked into they have like a little village, um, there was nothing to clean. It was so immaculately clean. There
Yeah.
was nothing for me to do. They had like snacks and food for us. And, he has another brother. So they had something for his brothers every single day. They would leave something for him and his brothers. This
Aww.
place, to Give Kids the World, encourages you to have ice cream for breakfast.
Mm,
So
Hell
he thought
yeah.
that was the coolest thing in the world because I couldn't tell him no.
right.
They
Aw.
do every night they have something going on at the village and they had Christmas. So, he got to see Santa and then they have people that, donate all of the toys. So the kids get to pick toys. They bring in the characters. There is just so much to do there. You could stay there literally the entire week.
I
Literally the
love it.
entire week. Yeah, it was absolutely, absolutely amazing. But prior to going there for his wish, that was when I was in a very like dark place because it was very difficult to hear your kid has got this and what is it, and at the same time you're going for make a wish and you have to realize like okay, you got to be happy for him because he's so young, but
Right.
inside, you are just crumbling,
Right.
Right.
completely crumbling. So I was all feeling bad for myself and, all of that, all the emotions that you go through when you hear that. And we got there and we got to spend a week with people that had way more medical issues and had such a better outlook on it. And unfortunately, some kids wouldn't even be here for Christmas, which is why they do the Christmas thing. There's all kinds of, diseases, all kinds of medical issues there. And yet they are the happiest group of people you have ever been around. So I got to talk to parents that were going through similar things, maybe not the same diagnosis, but the same emotion. And I got to realize at the end of that trip, not even at the end, but by the end, I came out of there with a completely different outlook and a completely different emotion on really what we were dealing with. It was like, okay, have you heard the saying, if we all took all of our problems and put them in a bucket, trust me, you'd look in the bucket to grab your own back. And
Right.
Yeah.
that is exactly how I felt. I felt very grateful, for what we had and getting to spend a week with parents and other children that were going through the same struggle but had the best outlook on life.
Yeah. That's huge.
Yes,
Wow.
it was.
Yeah, the perspective, right? Like, so you get back and what happens next? Because he's 18 now. So does life just
Yes.
sort of go on and it becomes normal to make these changes? Or was there any other huge milestone kind of learning moments throughout?
There was, quite a few things obviously going through the changing of the medication and then the decision, are we going to do the IVIG or not? Are we going to keep him in a bubble? Are we going to expose him to public school? Are we going to expose him to private school where it might be, less students? We've got to make an effort to drop him off and pick him up every single day. We have to have a good plan in place if something were to happen to him, medically, the people that understand. So I had to do a lot of preparing, and obviously as a mom, you just never know what's going to happen. So you're like, if something were to happen to me, who's going to know everything about him? Who's going to know how to take care of him? Who's going to know where all of his doctors are? So I had created this entire huge book that if
Oh
something were to
my
happen,
word. So for
Holy
the
crap.
people listening, how many inches thick would you say that is, G-Rex?
I'm going to say it's at least 5, maybe
Seems
6.
huge. It's a
yeah,
massive binder. I didn't even know they made them that big.
yes, they do. They do. I found it.
So what's inside of that? That's huge. That's a lot.
So this tells you every single doctor, every single diagnosis. Because as he was growing up, they were afraid that due to all of the medication and all the things they were giving him, that he wasn't growing as he should.
Mm.
So now you have got an endocrinologist involved. His bladder ended up being half the size that it should be.
Wow.
So, he had, at the time, I think he had like 6 specialists. So I
Wow.
Oh
needed
my gosh.
every single doctor in here, every single lab work, um, you know, every single person that if something were to happen to me, somebody could literally take this book and pick right up. I mean, it might take a little while because it's a lot of information, but but they could absolutely do that.
Wow.
Yes, absolutely. So that part of it was, challenging because you're like, you want to be prepared in case, because you never know as their caregiver. You've got to have something in place if something were to happen to you.
Yeah.
So that was also very, very challenging. Taking him to, all of these specialists and him hearing how he wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
I never realized from his perspective how
Yeah.
that would make it.
It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.